So something I've been wondering is why Metroid Lava stronger than what I would assume are juveniles in Metroid 2, and why did the baby grow big instead of maturing into the next stage? Right, this is something I've been wanting to talk about for so long. So we know that the Metroids absorb energy, be it organic or from the planet they're on. We have normal Metroids, which are on SR388 and the BSL station. Those are the ones that mature into like the Alpha, Zeta, Omega, and Queen Metroids. However, a Queen is only derived from a specific individual, but in order to become a Queen, it needs to go through the other phases first, where that only happens on SR388. Very important distinction. Then we have the Talon Metroids, which, lo and behold, are only on planet Talon, and their life cycle is also different compared to the SR388 variants. They look similar to normal Metroids, but they don't turn into alphas or anything like that. They turn it into hunters, like Metroid hunters and stuff like that, and that's as far as we see in terms of that. I'll get to that, Tripler. Then we have the Talon Metroids that are on Ether, and they are reacting to the planet's energy because their membrane is glowing red. And then those same Metroids that are brought over to Dark Ether, they either get possessed or something, I can't remember the exact specific of that. They still act like Metroids, but they look completely different. Yeah, they still don't go under the SR388 life cycle. Then we have in Corruption, Metroid like Hatchers, we have the Hoppers and stuff, and then the Metroid Primes themselves. In Super Metroid, no, we'll go to Zero Mission. Those Metroids were taken from SR388 and brought to Zebus, and they don't follow the SR388 life cycle. Well, why is that? They're not on SR388 anymore. None of the Metroids that are on SR388 do. And then with the Super Metroid itself, that's what I call it, like it gets so big because it was getting cloned. It got cloned and was exposed to beta radiation, I think. And so that one got superpowered, and because that Metroid specifically was going to be a queen, that's probably why it got so big and just didn't change, because it's not an SR388, so it can't go into Alpha. I keep bringing that up because for some ungodly reason, the Queen Metroid exists in Otherrealm. So, how? The bottle ship is not a recreation of SR388 or the BSL station, which is, and that is where we see Omega Metroids and the life cycle progress. Can you sense a common theme? TLDR, SR388 has unique planetary energy that allows the Metroids to undergo their usual metamorphic life cycle. The fact that the Queen Metroid was on the bottle ship, which is a recreation of Zebus specifically, apparently also went under that life cycle, makes no sense. I would usually not get so caught up about something like that if it didn't play right into the main story of the game. So if there's ever a reason to say why you feel that Otherrealm isn't canon, it's that, because it literally does not make sense and it breaks it. You want another fun thing? Samus Returns has doubled it down with the planetary energy thing. It has been 0 days. So yeah, Metroids absorb energy and planetary energy. The SR388 planetary energy is what causes the Alpha Metroids and ultimately the Queen Metroid. And so, because the bottle ship is not a recreation of SR388 specifically, logically, the Queen Metroid cannot exist. The worst part is, one line of dialogue would have fixed it, because that's also not an enhanced or altered Metroid, that Queen Metroid. The only thing is, that's a clone of the baby. So, like, it explains technically how it became a queen, but how did the process even happen? It shouldn't happen. Because even in Prime 3, pirates notice, hey, there's a unique Metroid strain from SR388 that isn't appearing anywhere else. Just think about that. There's also no evidence of other Metroid forms in Otherrealm. Exactly! There is infusion. It's like, oh, we went from a lava to a queen. That is not how it works. We see the life cycle in Samus Returns, Return of Samus, and Fusion. And the fact that Corruption is also saying, hey, these are different Metroids. They are following a different life cycle. Otherrealm, get the fuck out of here. You make no sense. I've wanted to make a video on that for so long, but I just hadn't gotten around to it, and I couldn't formulate how to put it. Now I do. I was about to ask if there were other stages in Otherrealm. Nope. So, literally the only thing in Otherrealm, so this is the thing that was like getting me. They explicitly say the Queen Metroid is an unaltered specimen.
They wanted to preserve her as a control specimen, so they had left her genes unaltered.
that is just straight up how it is, because they needed it to act as a control for the other Metroid experiments that they were actually working on, you know, the ones that can't be frozen. And so, why is the Queen here? Now, if you want to correct that, for example, and want to connect it to the Prime series, which talks about the SR388 specimen that they have that Queen Metroid be that specimen. That just solves the biggest problem of Other M's story, in my opinion. Obviously, apart from Samus's character, but like, that is the one major thing that has always bothered me about the game. They must have sucked at recreating Zebus then. That's the thing, it's very accurate. Zebus is, anyway. Like, the battleship to Zebus. It's also the only queen that pumped out Metroids directly, unless you count Prime as a queen. Prime is its own version of the queen. Look at it that way. The corruption, like, line of the Metroids, they're essentially doing, in quotes, the SR388 life cycle, but in a different way. So you have the hatches, you have the Prime, which is the queen, you still have the larvae, and then you have the hoppers, which kind of act like as a middle stage. It just, like, that makes sense. They must have moved Ridley to BSL very carefully, considering his corpse didn't turn to dust until then. You know what happens the second you touch a corpse that's been drained by a Metroid? So literally, even though Other M explains where Fusion Ridley came from, that's also problematic. I like to think Other M as the anti-Metroid game in every way, because it also gets everything wrong about the Metroids themselves.